Hello everyone out there in YouTube land. I'm the Scent Maven. Welcome back to my channel, Shopping and Scents. So today we have a special video. We are going to be doing a book review. Now this is a book that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, which a lot of you had some interest in. I'm going to give you a warning ahead of time. The book is very morbid. So if you do not like dark topics, then this is not the video for you. So the book is called Last Suppers. And it says a collection of final meals through the years. And this is by Caroline West and Mark Latter. I picked up a few of these at the Dollar Tree because I want to give them away as gifts. It's listed as $15.95. Like I said, I only paid $1. I made some marks in here, quite a few marks. I read this in about an hour. It's a really quick read. It's only about 128 pages, and it's large text, and you can see that the text is quite large, lots of pictures and diagrams and such. So I will say I did enjoy the book. I found some of the facts very interesting. Of course, it is very morbid. I felt cheated on some of the last meals because, well, let me tell you about what kinds of last meals. So one chapter is on last meals that death row inmates are allowed to choose before they're executed. Then there are also last meals of people who died in tragedies like the Titanic. And they know the last meal because they have copies of the menus and things. Then there are people who died in tragic accidents, whether it be a car crash or they disappeared, like Amelia Earhart. So all different kinds of last meals, whether the person died from the meal itself, whether they died in a tragedy, whatever circumstances surrounded their death, even if they died of stroke, heart attack, assassination. There's a chapter on political figures. Every possible person that they could document their last meal. In some cases, they don't really document the last meal. They suspect what the last meal may have been. And we'll get to that. So I'm going to read you some of these. We're going to go over some interesting ones. Now, there are a couple of last meals in here that I'm surprised are not in here. The first one, they have a lot of serial killers in here, and they document their last meal, but they missed John Wayne Gacy is one of the serial killers not listed. So if you're interested in what he had as his last meal, it was 12 fried shrimp, a bucket of original recipe KFC, French fries, a pound of strawberries, and some say a Diet Coke. Then there was another killer, Victor Figuer, I don't know how to pronounce it, and he requested a single olive with the pit still in it. And then another famous figure that I'm surprised they don't mention in the book because there's such an urban legend around her death is the silent film star Lupe Vlez. And she's been mentioned on shows like Frasier and The Simpsons. They make mention of her. So the story is that she overdosed on pills. And they just, I don't know who found her, her maid or whoever found her the next day deceased in her bed. And they say that she killed herself because of an affair, that she was going to have an illegitimate child and she didn't want to go through all that and she didn't want the child to be shamed or whatever. But anyway, that story got put by the wayside. And then there's the urban legend. So the urban legend is that she took all these pills. Well, the urban legend is that she wanted to be remembered for how she died. So she planned an elaborate suicide where she was going to dress up in a gown and do her hair and makeup and everything. She took this enormous amount of pills, but the pills disagreed with her spicy Mexican Spanish dinner that she had. She woke up violently ill, ran to the bathroom. Some say that she slipped on her own vomit, which is disgusting, and then landed headfirst in the toilet where she drowned. This has been disproven, and the coroner's report says overdose by pills, but the urban legend remains. So, yeah. I'm surprised they don't mention Lupe Vlez in here. So, let's talk about the people that they do mention. I have a lot of flags to go through, which is helpful that I bought these jot little page markers that look like a little rainbow picket fence. So be prepared for a long video because we're going to read together. Okay, so we're going to start off with the chapter on last meals by death row prisoners. So the first one that I want to bring up is, well, let me say that not every state gives a prisoner a special last meal, does not allow a prisoner to request a special last meal. And some states that do allow it put a limit on the price of the amount of food you can order. So I think part of the reason for that is there's this killer who committed this horrendous, disgusting crime. And because of the last meal that he ordered, it ended Texas allowing prisoners to have a last meal. So we'll get into this. So it's Lawrence Russell Brewer. Brewer was convicted along with accomplices Sean Berry and John King of the cruel murder of James Byrd Jr., who was dragged along behind a truck. Brewer refused to eat his final meal, with the result that no one else is allowed this privilege in Texas today. So he died by execution at Huntsville Unit, Texas, September 21st, 2011, by lethal injection. And the meal that he ordered that he did not eat was fried chicken steaks with onions and gravy, a triple cheeseburger, a large meat and vegetable omelet, fried okra with loads of ketchup, a loaf of bread, 1 pound of barbecue meat, a meat feast pizza, 3 fajitas, 2 cans of soda, and to round it all off, some peanut butter fudge and a pint of ice cream. He ordered all that food and then refused to eat any of it. So he was just an a-hole to the end. There's no other word to describe him. He was a horrible person, committed this horrendous crime, and then he orders this giant meal and then he doesn't eat any of it. Okay, so here's another giant meal by a death row prisoner. So this is Walter Legrand. So it says on January 7, 1982, Walter Legrand and his brother Carl murdered bank manager Ken Hartzuck during a failed robbery at Valley National Bank in Marana, Arizona. And he was to be executed at Pima County, Arizona, March 3rd, 1999 in the gas chamber. So he ordered 6 eggs over easy, 16 pieces of bacon, hash browns, a breakfast steak, hot sauce, a pint of pineapple sherbet ice cream, 3 different cans of soda, a cup of coffee with 2 packs of sugar, and 4 Rolaids tablets. Now I should say, the last meal is typically given a few days before the actual execution. Okay. Why did I mark this page? This is another large meal. So this is Thomas Grasso. Grasso was found guilty of double murder, first strangling 87-year-old Hilda Johnson with Christmas tree lights, and then 81-year-old Leslie Holtz in New York 6 months later. Executed at Oklahoma State Penitentiary, March 20th, 1995 by lethal injection. So he ordered double burger king cheeseburger, a can of spaghetti and meatballs, 24 steamed mussels, 24 steamed clams with a wedge of lemon, 6 barbecue spare ribs, pumpkin pie with whipped cream, strawberries, and 2 strawberry milkshakes. This one is also, I'm not going to read all of the crimes. I don't know. Should I read all the crimes? This guy, if you're not interested in this video, then you're not interested. So this is James Edward Smith, found guilty of murdering Larry D. Rojas, an insurance executive, March 7, 1983. Smith became famous for his very strange Last Supper request. He asked for a lump of dirt, perhaps for use in a voodoo ritual. Executed Huntsville Unit, Texas, June 26, 1990 by lethal injection. So he requested a lump of dirt, but the prison staff gave him yogurt instead. So then we're going to get to some other. So those are some big meals, some interesting meals. Okay. I'm just going to, I don't know how they know this is the last meal, but they have in here Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun. They said Hitler, cause of death, gunshot to right temple, and Braun, suicide by cyanide pill. On the menu, spaghetti with a simple sauce. So they do have a chapter on political figures, dictators, tyrants, and despots. And they have, okay, so this one I thought was really interesting. So Zachary Taylor, President of the United States, lived from 1784 to 1850. While attending the July 4th celebrations at the Washington Monument on a very hot day, Taylor was taken seriously ill with severe abdominal pains and nausea. He died 5 days later. So he ate lots of cherries and glasses of iced milk and water. The cause of death, possibly gastroenteritis, as a result of something he'd eaten. So they say he died from eating too many cherries and glasses of iced milk. I don't know if the water had anything to do with it. Okay, so here, this is one of the very morbid things about this book is that the people on death row, they know they're being executed. So they can choose what their final meal will be. But people who are assassinated, like the one I'm going to read you right now, Abraham Lincoln, they never knew that their last meal was going to be their last meal. And do you think, like, if they knew, that would be a horrible thought, but if they knew, would they have chosen something different? I think they would have chosen to live. But it makes you wonder, you know? Anyway. So Abraham Lincoln, we know that he was at Ford's Theater when he was shot at point blank range by John Wilkes Booth. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but Lincoln's last meal, because I guess this is what was served at the theater or what he ate before he went to the theater. It doesn't say. It says he had mock turtle soup, roast Virginia fowl with chestnut stuffing and baked yams, cauliflower with cheese sauce. So I guess he had a pretty filling last meal. Okay, this one is super strange. Francois Mitterrand, the 21st president of France. So it says President of France from 1981 to 1995. Mitterrand died on January 8th, 1996, just 8 months after leaving office. So here, this I thought was very strange. On the menu, oysters and foie gras, plus a French delicacy called ortolan. That's O-R-T-A-L-A-N, ortolan. A tiny songbird that is force-fed and then drowned in Armagnac before being roasted and ideally eaten under cover of a large napkin. The practice is now illegal. That is so bizarre. A tiny songbird force-fed and then drowned before being roasted and ideally eaten whole under cover of a large napkin. I just, it's so, so strange. And now the ice cream man is out here. Okay, so here's another one where I wonder if this person would have thought differently if they knew what was going to happen to them. So that's James Dean. There's a whole chapter on celebrities. So we all know that James Dean died in a terrible car crash, but I will read you. And then another person that's not in this book, and one of my, I don't want to say one of, not an idol, but somebody who I think admire as a beautiful icon is Jane Mansfield, and she died in a horrible car crash too. They have Marilyn Monroe in here, but they don't have Jane Mansfield. Anyway, James Dean. So on September 30th, 1955, while on his way to a car rally in Salinas, California with his car mechanic, Rolf Wutherick, or Wutherick, it's got the little umlaut over the U, Dean crashed his Porsche 550 Spider en route. Dean had stopped at a roadside diner for a bite to eat. So he stops at this diner, and then after he leaves, he gets into a crash. So he had apple pie and a glass of milk. This was to be the last refreshment he ever took. Traveling on Highway 466, Dean hit another car head-on. His companion survived the crash. Dean was just 24 years old. It's so, so sad. So, so sad. This one is bizarre. So bizarre. I've never heard of this person, but she's in the chapter on celebrities. So Olive Thomas lived from 1894 to 1920. American silent movie actress and model whose films include The Glorious Lady from 1919 and The Flapper, 1990, married to actor John Pickford. Olive died after accidentally ingesting a topical medicine prescribed to treat her husband's syphilis-related sores. What? And then it says cause of death, poisoning by misadventure. And it says as on her meal on the menu, lethal dose of mercury bichloride. How do you accidentally ingest topical medicine prescribed for syphilis-related sore? How? So anyway, that I thought was very, very strange. So we're gonna, this is also somebody who I've never heard of before, but he ate a poisonous fish, and this fish, the fugu fish, was in an episode of The Simpsons. So anyway, this says Mr. Guro Bando the 8th, 1906 to 1975. Okay, on the menu, 4 fugu fish, cause of death, acute poisoning leading to paralysis and death. The acclaimed Japanese actor Mitsuguro Bando VIII died on January 16, 1975 after eating some fugu fish, also known as puffer fish. The internal organs, especially the liver of the fugu fish, contain a deadly neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin, which is over 1,000 times deadlier than cyanide. In Japan, highly trained chefs prepare these fish by removing all of their internal organs. For this reason, the fish is regarded as a culinary delicacy, and only the very brave or very foolhardy are tempted to eat. It is like playing a game of gastronomic Russian roulette. There is no known antidote. Why? Why would you eat that? Is the fugu fish so delicious that is worth your life? And he ate 4 of them. So, and that, here's a picture of what the fugu fish looks like. All right, so we got a couple more here. Okay, so this is another accidental poisoning type thing. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. If you ever watch the movie Amadeus, you know, you'd be a fan. Or if you like classical music. So 1756 to 1791. A child musical prodigy who became one of the world's one of the most famous classical composers in the world. Although rumors abound that he was murdered by his arch rival Salieri, he probably died from a fatal disease called trichinosis after eating undercooked pork chops. And he wasn't that old. So it says pork chops that were probably undercooked. That was on the menu. Cause of death, trichinosis, a parasitic disease. And then it says Mozart's dying words were, "The taste of death is upon my lips. I feel something that is not of this earth." Can you imagine? You're a world famous composer and you die from undercooked pork chops. I mean, what a way to go. There's a whole bunch. I could read you this whole book, but I'm trying to skip to people, okay, so this is also really disgusting and sad. This is sort of like in the vein of Lupe Vlez. Jimi Hendrix, okay? I'm not a super fan, but you got to respect the guy's talent. So 1942 to 1970. It says, talented American guitarist, singer, and songwriter Jimi Hendrix was the ultimate rock star. Hendrix was taken ill at the Samarkand Hotel, London, on September 18th, 1970, having spent the evening with Monica Danneman. On the menu, tuna fish sandwich. That was the last thing Jimi Hendrix ever ate, according to this, a tuna fish sandwich. And his cause of death, suffocation on vomit and barbiturate overdose. So you have to think about, put that in perspective. You have this amazing talent, this revolutionary guitar player, this huge rock star. And the last thing he ate in this world was a tuna fish sandwich. And how did he die? He took too many drugs and he suffocated on his own vomit. That is awful. Oh, and they do have Cass Elliot in here, for Cass Elliot. They say she choked on a ham sandwich. She was from the group, the Mamas and the Papas. And she was a bit robust. She was full-figured. And there's this terrible story that because she was full-figured, there's this urban legend that she choked to death on a ham sandwich. And then there's this really bad joke, a horrible, disgusting, tasteless joke that, Karen Carpenter, Karen Carpenter of the Carpenters. She died tragically of anorexia and bulimia. And there's this terrible thing that some people say, if Mama Cass had given her ham sandwich to Karen Carpenter, they both would have lived. Awful. Awful. So, but here it says, on the menu, possibly a ham sandwich, but the cause of death was heart attack. So it says, there is a cruel but often repeated urban legend that Mama Cass choked to death on a ham sandwich. This story had been circulating after her body was discovered, and police told reporters that a partially eaten sandwich had been found in her room and might have been to blame for her untimely death. An autopsy had yet to be conducted at the time. However, the official post-mortem examination found that Elliot had suffered a heart attack probably caused by recent extreme weight loss and fasting. No food at all was found in her windpipe. So let's put that to rest, because that's just a terrible, terrible thing. Okay, so this is also amazing to me. Johann Schobert, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Johann Schobert lived 1735 to 1767. How long is this video so far? Not too bad. Okay, so Johann Schobert German composer and harpsichordist Johann Schobert held a dinner party for friends on August 28th, 1767 at his home in Paris. Despite warnings from his guests, he asked for some mushrooms to be served. Unfortunately, they were poisonous. Schobert, his wife, one of their children, a maid, and 4 friends all died as a result. This man, his wife, one of his children, a maid, and 4 friends died because he had to serve poisonous mushrooms. And his guests told him not to serve them, and he did not listen. That's just awful. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of what I wanted to talk to you about. Okay. This is also interesting. King Adolf Frederick of Sweden, 1710 to 1771. The 18th century Swedish king Adolf was fond of his food. To celebrate 20 years on the throne, he held a sumptuous banquet at Stockholm Palace in which he consumed numerous servings of the main course and 14 servings of dessert. Not surprisingly, he died of digestive problems a few hours later. Cause of death, overindulgence, and gluttony. On the menu, the main course, caviar, lobster, sauerkraut, smoked herring, and champagne. And the dessert that he had 14 servings of, sweet cream buns, known in Sweden as semla, and some warm milk. So he ate 14 sweet cream buns, plus numerous servings of the main course. Caviar, lobster, sauerkraut, smoked herring, and champagne. Okay. Only got 3 more flags left here. Okay, so here's one that they don't tell you what their last meal was, but technically they should know. Okay, so Bonnie and Clyde, infamous outlaws, lovers, and partners in crime, Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, enjoyed a 2-year crime spree during America's Great Depression. They were eventually ambushed after having had breakfast at a cafe in Gibbsland, Louisiana. They died in their Ford V8 under a hail of bullets at 9:10 on May 23rd, 1934. Cause of death, ambush and fatally shot near Louisiana Highway 154. On the menu, breakfast at an American cafe, now the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum. So they know that they had breakfast at a cafe. Just like they know that James Dean had, what did I say he had? I forget. Oh, apple pie and a glass of milk. They know because he stopped at a diner before he got into this car crash. So they know that Bonnie and Clyde ate at this diner before they died in a hail of bullets, but they don't know what they ate. I would think that that would be one of the questions that those tabloid reporters would have asked back then. And here's another one where they tell us they suspect what the person may have eaten. They don't know. So Amelia Earhart, this is under Heroes and Explorers. So Amelia Earhart, in 1937, legendary female aviator Amelia Earhart disappeared over the Pacific Ocean while attempting to fly around the world. It is now believed she may have survived on fish and birds for weeks or even months on the remote Nicomaroro, I can't even pronounce that, Nicomaroro Island in the South Pacific. It says cause of death, exact cause unknown. On the menu, possibly fish, turtles, and birds. So they don't know. And last, we're going to end with this last figure that I did not know committed suicide. And this is probably one of the oldest figures in the book. Cleopatra. Did you know that Cleopatra committed suicide? I did not know this. It says, Cleopatra is a mesmerizing historical figure who has captivated historians and writers through the centuries. A successful Egyptian ruler, she seduced the Roman leader Julius Caesar, by whom she had a son. She later fell in love with another Roman, Mark Antony, forming a romantic and political alliance with him against Rome's new leader, Octavian. After the disastrous Battle of Actium, Mark Antony committed suicide, believing that Cleopatra had already killed herself. Cleopatra then took her own life. So it says on the menu, a basket of figs containing a venomous snake. Suicide August 12th, 30 BCE. So, yeah. And then, if you're really interested, and I'm not going to read all of them, but they have here, if you're really into this stuff, the Titanic, and they have the menu for the first class passengers. They have the menu for the second class and third class passengers of the Titanic. They also have the menu for the Hindenburg, the Apollo 11 mission, and a whole bunch of other things. So those are all my little flags in there. This is a 30-minute video. I think that is sufficient. So let me know what you think. Is this a super morbid topic? Was this not even worth a book review? I found it interesting. I could have easily read you the entire book. There's a lot of interesting people in there. It's super, super morbid to think about a person's last moments in that way. And it's sad and tragic, but I think these people, well, not the serial killers, but I think the other people, a lot of the people in the book, sadly were good people, or we thought were good people, like Lincoln and, you know, James Dean and Marilyn Monroe. Well, who knows how good they were, but they certainly didn't deserve to die like that. So yeah, but they'll be remembered. Their memory will live on, right? So yeah, I don't know how to end this video. So comment, rate, subscribe, follow me on Instagram at Shopping and Sense, and stay tuned for more book reviews, face mask reviews, movie reviews, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Till then, goodbye everyone out there in YouTube land.